Welcome to today's Autodesk Community Conversation. We got two special guests or speakers here. It's answering your top AutoCAD queries, how-to tips. So we have Mike Vettrell and Dan Kuman. So next, please, we'll go through some fun welcome stuff, talking about Autodesk Community Conversations. They're virtual meetups featuring expert speakers from across the community. Sessions range from deep dives, tips and tricks, and live demonstrations on products such as AutoCAD, Revit, Dynamo, Fusion 360, to roundtables and industry with insights, emerging trends, career stories. It's about everything, and for all levels, from beginner to advanced. All right, introductions. I'm Sean Hurley, Autodesk Community Engagement Manager. I'm a geeky technologist in sunny Bend, Oregon. That's the east side, the non-rainy side, but apparently the lightning full side right now.
I'm Mike Vettrell, just North San Francisco, and doing the test development, so QA related stuff on testing, and been around Autodesk for almost 30 years. So been here a while on a lot of different releases and a lot of different features.
Welcome.
And I'm Dan Kuman. I am senior manager for software quality assurance. Work closely with Mike. I have not been here near as long though, about half as long. So working on it.
Still a long time.
I think between me and Mike, if you add our years up, it could retire.
Absolutely.
A lot of years.
All right. Well, I think this is where I jump in and start talking myself, right? So what we're planning for today, we had talked last week about some of the things people brought up as confusion about the product, and a lot of them were bugs or things that weren't quite working right, and how to fix those problems, right? How to fix if something was broken. But this week we wanted to go a little bit of a different direction. These were questions that came up in the community forum where people were asking something that was more of a common knowledge or knowledge gap, where trying to help people understand better how the product works. And so you can see here, we're going to talk about how to import PDFs into AutoCAD, understanding the drawing save, backup, autosave system, dashed lines appearing as solid and how to deal with that, hovering the pointer over the grips and not being able to get the dynamic dimensions. So a little bit of conversation around dynamic inputs, and then creating a spline with an arrowhead. And I have a few quick shameless plugs. One, a lot like last session, I would love for you to join the Alpha and Beta program. Best way to get feedback directly to the AutoCAD team, work with the engineering team, see features that are new and making sure that they work well with what you would expect, and also being able to shape those features. Say that maybe you're an AutoCAD Classic user and you really like the toolbars. I love the toolbars myself. I try to keep them alive, but if I forget to check something in a toolbar, we love beta users, alpha users giving the feedback, hey, I need a toolbar button for this, right? So join the beta, join the alpha. We have about 6 alphas a year right now, and we have 4 beta builds per year. So a lot of great opportunity about once a month to get involved and push the buttons and give some feedback. Super easy to join. Just join at feedback.autodesk.com. And with that, we're going to jump into Mike's slides.
Alrighty, yeah. So there's a few different ways to bring, if you're working with PDF, you want to bring it into your drawing you're working on. Couple things to keep in mind might affect how you bring that PDF in. One really comes down to, what is that PDF? If you had taken a printed output, maybe put it on the scanner, and the scanner sent you generated a PDF for you, most likely it's going to be really just an image in that PDF. If you had a like a PDF editor, maybe Acrobat Pro or something like that, you could open it and you could just see the actual, it's just like a can't remember if it's a PNG, but it's basically an embedded image. And then the other kind of PDF the AutoCAD would plot, we call a vector PDF. So inside that PDF are, PDF calls them mostly paths. They're polyline like objects or splines. They can have text, that sort of thing. And so those can, it can give you different functionality once you bring that PDF into AutoCAD. So a couple things, I don't have screenshots of the dialogues, but PDF attach is one way to bring your PDF in. It's very much like the dialogue's very similar to the XREF attach when you what's called the attach external reference dialog. So you use the PDF attach command or just attach command and choose the PDF file format, and you get a presentation of all the pages. If it happens to have multiple pages in your PDF, you choose which one you want, and you can do all the things that you'd normally do with an XREF. Choose the whether you want to place it with a reference with a relative path or absolute path, and where you want it on the screen and the scale. If you're bringing that, when you bring that in, it's really, we call it an underlay. So it's kind of like you were using an image. So, it sits there. You can, if you move it to the back with like draw order, you can then, use it as sort of your backdrop. Maybe you're placing a building in an area and you had a PDF, scanned image, for example. If it's a vector-based PDF, with the lines and polylines and that sort of thing, then you can OSNAP to that. There's a PDF OSNAP system variable. I think it's enabled by default. So that can come in handy. You just have to make sure you've scaled it correctly to how you want to work with. The other feature I'm a little more familiar with, we added, I think either in 2017 or 2017 update. It's called PDF import. And this is pretty cool. It will, if you have a PDF that's a type of a vector PDF, maybe, and that's what you'd get, say, if you plotted out an AutoCAD drawing. Maybe you no longer have access to the drawing for who knows why, but you have the PDF. You really need to make some tweaks. You want to bring it in as a rough guide. What those objects were like in the original drawing. Then PDF import is probably the command you want to give a go. When you run that and you choose to select a file, you can you also get presented, if there's multiple pages in that PDF, you choose which page you want to import. It'll try to read it and attempt to identify what the page size is. So, if it was created by AutoCAD, it's usually pretty accurate. It'll say ANSI A or ArchC, that sort of thing. And you can choose what to do with the objects in there. Do you want to import the true type text if there's true type text? In general, that'll be checked by default. And there's some, you can bring in the vector geometry. And by default, there's a way that it'll try and join some of the lines and arc segments. And the reason we have to make these kind of tweaks is that, the PDF's not, it doesn't know about AutoCAD objects. It just knows the more basic stuff, like, where these splines or, what it got turned into splines or P-line type of objects. So, and that brings me to the next point. If you have some fonts in your text objects that used Shix fonts, they're going to just go to the PDF as little, what we'd call grass clippings, just little parts of the, a D would be maybe an arc and a vertical line, and you'll have all the little components of that text. And so there's a little cleanup, but we added a command called PDF SHX text. And if you know, or you can pretty closely guess, what Shix font was used in that text originally, you can make it does a pretty good job in converting what became kind of a round trip. At some point it started as a DWG, it got printed to a PDF, you brought it back in with the PDF command, import command, and the PDF SHX text will try and, do its best to convert that back into some real text, with the Shix font that, you chose to try and use. So yeah, those are the PDF import, like a very quick overview. I had a couple links there. I think Sean just shared them. It's the first one, if I remember, was it's kind of about importing PDF files, and it touches on a couple things I just mentioned: PDF attach versus PDF import, how the objects in the PDF might get converted back into AutoCAD objects, and the limitations. One of the main ones is just PDF doesn't have as much precision. So, you exported something that was 6 feet, you bring it, it goes to a PDF, you bring it back in, it might be 6.002 feet. So, these are just some of the limitations that might happen. So, if you have the DWG, that's going to be your best way to preserve the fidelity. And if you can, increase the vector DPI, that's something you can, tweak your PC3, like your print to PDF PC3 that you're using, then you will be more likely to have better results, both on the dimensions of the objects you're importing, and especially in like Shix fonts, they'll convert much better if you have a higher DPI. So yeah, that's maybe next slide.
Sure.
All right, my favorite subject. When customers run into issues with opening and saving, often the questions end up in our queue, and try to help out there. So I have a couple file types listed here. I just wanted to go over just at a high level. There's a link. Again, this link is useful to understanding what AutoCAD does when you open or save a file, because you might see some of these extensions. You open the DWG file, but what are these other things that appear? Right when you open, there's a DWL and DWL2 files. You might see them. They're hidden by the operating system by default, but they just have, it's for the command called who has. So if Dan's opened a file, I try to open it, it says, hey, Dan Truman has this open for, do you want to open it read only? It got Dan's name from reading this file. That's all it is. So you open a file, it writes out if you open it for read write, as you would kind of normal, it'll write your name into this file, and it's there for the duration that you have it open. So another person opens it, they get, some information about who has it currently open. When you go to, well, I should say, when you open a file, AutoCAD always reads the entire DWG into working RAM, into memory. And when you go to save, it's kind of a couple steps involved. It's a little more than you might, intuit. So we first rename the existing DWG that's sitting on disk that you just opened. We rename it to a .back file. And I think it's always good to keep that enabled, but if you, for some reason you wanted to disable that, there's an isave back sysvar to disable the creation of the back file when you save. The next step is AutoCAD will take everything that's in memory that you've been working on, and when you've done this save, it writes it out to a TMP file. And then finally, the last step is to rename that TMP to have the DWG extension. So seems a little convoluted, but that wiki page has a little more information about what's going on when you do a save. And just, I wanted to touch on just quickly the autosave. So, you can set this, it defaults to happen every 10 minutes. It is actually a DWG file, and so is the .bak file. So if for some reason, maybe you lost power, we were talking about that earlier. If you lost power while you were working, if an autosave had kicked in, you hadn't manually saved yet, if you restart AutoCAD, you'll probably get this dialog palette called the Drawing Recovery Manager, and it'd pop up, and it would probably present you with the .sv $ and .bak file. You could open those and choose to save them, because they really are just DWG files. The other thing to keep in mind about autosave is that it's not like Office 3, like Microsoft Office 365. It's not like saving every edit as you're working. So it's good to, I mean, it's a good way to have it kind of as a little backup for you, but you really should be doing a, Control S now and then yourself. Don't absolutely rely on this. It just, it hurts to get some customer feedback, and it's like, I worked all day on this file and I looked, I crashed or I, lost power, or what happened. And, all my work is gone. It's like, dude, you really have to press Control S while you're working. It's really important. So you have to save. Let's see, really quick. Oh, the iSave percent. So there's this concept of full save versus incremental save, and I touch on that on the wiki. But in short, while you're working, if you've edited the file, maybe you've erased some objects, maybe you blocked some objects, there's going to be some extra, what you might call wasted space in the drawing. AutoCAD, when you do a Q save, your Control S key, if it identifies, hey, there's this person's just added a polyline, there's actually enough space in the drawing to just add this polyline, and they've just done a save, let's not write everything in RAM to rewrite the entire drawing. Let's just add just the most recent piece into the existing file, and it's much quicker. It doesn't transfer as much data. If you're working across a slow network, it really speeds things up. If you have iSave percent set to the default like 50, it's kind of a trigger point. It's not there's like a whole algorithm behind it as to how much wasted space of that sort of thing. And but that's a quick overview. And then going a little long here, but yeah, I just I mentioned QSave works. Let's see, there's a save as command to save to a different format, besides DWG. Of course, you could save as a template, DWT, or a DWS for standards if you're working in AutoCAD, full AutoCAD. Those are also they're both just DWG files. And then the save command works a little differently in LT and AutoCAD. Save in AutoCAD is like save a copy as another name, but don't change the file I'm actually working with right now. LT doesn't, it just kind of treats it, I think, as a Q save. And the last point was just, each time we have to make a change to the format, the data saved to a drawing, if you try to save to an older version, it does two things. It takes, if there's something that we've added in the current release, it has to save it almost twice, if you will. It saves it back in a way that's sort of hidden for older releases. So older releases could still open the file, but if you reopened it in the current release, it would be read back in just to the current release. But in short, it's best if you've moved on to a new release of AutoCAD that has a newer version, it's best to save in that native format, if you will, the most recent supported by that version. You'll get some performance gains there. So that's it for those slides I had.
Thank
A lot of great information in there, Mike.
And I think it's important to note the current version is 2018 version. So plenty of runway there for versions of AutoCAD that you're using that can all work with the same drawing format. Something we've been trying to keep the same drawing format as long as possible. See how long we can make it. All right, let's talk about a couple other topics. So dashed lines appearing solid in AutoCAD. I had thought about all the different settings that can impact this, making sure people understand what each setting's for. So there's really 4 primary settings: the LT scale, MSLT scale, PSLT scale, and CELT scale. So you can see them all here. LT scale is setting the line type scale to be globally a certain size. So if you're if you're working with, say, the hidden line type, and you notice that your hidden line type dashing is not showing up, it looks solid, then probably your LT scale is too small. If the line doesn't show up at all, it's too big. But if the line's showing and it looks like a solid line, it's probably that your LT scale is too small. Try sizing it out to a bigger size. Basically, every time you change by a half point increment, it will double the spacing. And so if you need the scaling to be more like a 1 to 10 scale, or if you're working in metric maybe, and you are drawing lines that are 1,000 millimeters long, that's not very long, right? That's 1 meter, but it's gonna look like the line dashing is not there because it's 1,000 in AutoCAD, right? There's no units applied in AutoCAD. And so you would want to adjust your LT scale to maybe be 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. So 10 or 100, right? Adjusting LT scale is typically what you would do for the drawing. But if you set your LT scale to 1 and say that your one of your line types, maybe it's a custom line type that you've created, or maybe it's one of the line types that you'd like to use, but it's a little more set up for being in a imperial units instead of metric or something like that, right? Then you can also adjust a specific line type to have a different LT scale by using CE LT scale. This only applies to objects drawn after that point, so don't set CE LT scale and expect everything of that line type to adjust. But you can go into the line type command, you can change the line type scale there, and that's adjusting the CE LT scale. You can adjust it in the properties, but basically to be able to give a specific line type a longer or shorter LT scale than other line types. So object specific typically is how you would use that one. And then you got MSLT scale, which is for your model space, and PSLT scale, which is for your paper space. When MSLT scale is set to 1, then the model space scaling for the annotation scale will adjust the line type scaling. And so you'll see if you change your annotation scale to 1 to 4, 1 to 40, the line type scaling adjusts appropriately. So you can keep your line type scale set at 1 and then use annotative scaling to adjust the annotation scaling. And then PSLT scale is similar, but it's for layouts and for your viewport. If your viewport is set to 1 to 40, you'll see the line type adjusting there. So that's how to use the LT scaling. Again, if the line appears solid and it's supposed to be dashed, it's probably the line type scale. It's probably that the line is very large and it really is dashed, but you'd have to zoom in close enough to see that dashing or adjust the scaling accordingly. The second topic, hovering over grips does not display dynamic dimensions. That's a good question, but I think the real question is, how does dynamic input work? I want to see the dynamic dimensions and I'm not seeing them for some reason. So it's probably because your dynamic input's turned off. So if it's turned off, right, it's one of the negative settings of the sysvar. So -3 is when you hit the, I think it's F10 or F12, one of those, and you turn off dynamic inputs, right? Then it flips it to a negative value, -3, -2, whatever your positive value was before gets flipped to negative. But you can also set up your dynamic inputs to be the one that you want to see. And so if you want dynamic input to be set to 3, that's showing with pointer inputs and dimension inputs on. I believe 2 is dimension inputs only without pointer inputs. And then 1 and 0 turns both of those settings off, right? Little better control over what you're doing than memorizing numbers. Go into the D settings, drafting settings, right? Go to the dynamic input tab. And you can see, I've got the picture there, right? You've got enable pointer input, being able to set up your pointer inputs, enable dimension inputs, being able to set up your dimension inputs, and then dynamic prompting, like what the command line is saying on your cursor, so that you don't have to look down at the command line, or you can have your command line on a different screen, or however you work, right? But it's right there following your cursor around so you can see what you're being prompted to do. And I went in there and I clicked into the settings for the dimensions, because that was the question. So with the dimensions, there's 3 ways you can set it up. You can set it up to show 1 dimension input at a time. So it's only showing the option you have. You hit the tab key, it goes to the next one. You can typically tab through about 5 dimensions before you get back to the first one again. So that's a good way to work if you don't want the extra clutter on your screen. If you hate having, all these things pop up when you hit the dimension button, you just want to see what you're working with right there. You know that the other ones exist and you know how to get to them by pushing tab, then set that one on, right? That cleans up your screen, makes it nice. If you're not sure what's coming next, you can set it for 2 dimensions and it'll show the one you're currently on and the one that you're going to hit when you get tab, right? So you hit the tab button, you go to the next one, it updates, you got 2 dimensions, but it's always available to tab to the next one, right? And so that one is the default that lets people kind of know what's coming next as well as what's there. Clutters up your screen a little bit more, but that's probably what most people are used to. So if you're not seeing the dimensions, it's probably because this has been changed from the value that you wanted, right? And the third option there is show me everything, right? But then you can pick which ones to not show you. So you can show the following inputs, right? And then you can turn off resulting dimension, length change, absolute angle, right? So if you wanted 4 of the 5 or 3 of the 5 to always be showing, or if you wanted all 5 to be showing, pick that one, right? Tons of controls, right? I think we said at the beginning of this, AutoCAD has 3 ways to do everything. Here's an example, right? You have all your controls, all your options, exactly what you want, but you have to know to go into D settings and to be able to set up all of the settings. Otherwise, you're just doing DYN mode, setting a number and kind of getting the defaults for that number, or you're going down on your system tray and you're setting the button there to be on or off, or you're setting your settings there, right? So really, D settings is the best way to get all the options that you want to set it up to be perfectly how you want it. But probably if you're not seeing dimensions at all, it's because they got turned off.
Awesome. Hey, just one quick note here, Daniel. Or
Yeah.
Dan. God. See, I'm reading Daniel
Whichever.
on there. I know you was Dan. Dean gave a great way to remember just going back to the last topic. Think of LT scale as a global setting in a drawing file. From there, just remember the following. CE is, or CELT scale is, it stands for current entity. MS is, it stands for the model space. PS is paper space. So it's a nice way to do it. Also, Mr. Futrell gave us another nice reference for markup import command in AutoCAD 2023. It's another very cool way to leverage PDF with AutoCAD drawings. So for those not monitoring the chat, there was some good stuff in there.
I was thinking when Mike was talking about PDF import, I was like, oh, we should have put a note in here for markup import. So markup import is when if you go on your PDF and you like put a rev cloud in, or you put some text in, like, hey, this object's wrong, right? You can actually import those markups and it'll come in as a trace over your drawing so that you can see, hey, this is, and you can take a cell phone picture of it, or you can bring in a PDF if you're editing in Adobe or something like that, right? Or you can import the picture there and have the drawing overlay, right? A trace of the drawing to be able to work with it. So great plug there, Mike. I was thinking the same thing, that it'd be good for people who are interested in that. It's in 2023. Get the update one to have all the latest on that, but great one to use. And with that, we're going to the last last topic? I know we're a little past 10:30, but I think I asked Sean for 10 extra minutes. So
We're all good here. It's fine. It's fine. We should have put these as a 1 hour session because we really could have expanded on everything.
So the last one, creating splines with arrowheads. And as best as I know, you cannot actually create a spline with an arrowhead, but I think what the real question was is, how do you make a spline M leader with an arrowhead? Because you can make a spline M leader, you can put an arrowhead on it, you can put whatever you want from the spline options. So I can't answer that. You can go to M leader, you can O for options, L for leader type, and P for spline, right? And now you've got a spline, which I think they look pretty cool on some drawings. It really depends on your idea of what your company standard is, I guess. If your company doesn't like squiggly M leaders, then don't do that. Not encouraging squiggly M leaders, but I've used both. Sometimes I use the straight lines. Sometimes I got to get an M leader that goes around some other text or something like that. And I use the spline M leader. And as long as the city or government entity doesn't mind the splined M leaders, I like that way. There's also the default on M leaders is 2 points. So your spline just looks like an arc if you start with the default. So I do encourage go under the M leader and O for options, M for max points, change that to a number you're never going to hit. And then you can draw as many click points as you want. Typically like 3 or 4 looks good. If you actually got up to 50, that might be a bit excessive for an M leader. If you would like your M leader to be a true spline with an arrowhead, you can explode it. And then it'll be a spline and an arrowhead, but it still won't be a spline with a connected arrowhead. So then I guess maybe make it a block and then you have a spline with an arrowhead. I don't know. I don't know the exact question. I can't ask people, but I assumed this was the direction people were looking for is hey, I saw an M leader that looked like a spline, right? How did I do that? It's under the M leaders. You can go in your M leader style. You can change the leader format and the leader structure to have the maximum points, or you can type it in. Like I said, I'm old school user, so I type everything and do toolbars, right? That was all I had on this topic. I think Dean said he has a forum link there of great ways to work with the spline M leaders.
I'll put those in the event page as well in the notes. Thanks, Dean. I'm so old school. I still type DD modify, DD attribute edit, all those things. I can't get it out of my mind.
I still push Control C sometimes.
All right. Well, there's a lot of good information. Appreciate Mike and Dan. I got a few things to add, a couple slides. Don't leave us yet. And when you do leave, there's a quick, easy little survey, and just fill that out. It helps us figure out how to, as we evolve this program, how to best fit your needs and what you're looking for, what you enjoyed, and what you'd like to see in the future. So next, please. You can explore the many ways to connect the Autodesk community, including the global network of user groups in the Autodesk Group Network, our industry-focused communities, helping your colleagues solve business challenges, the Autodesk forums, of course, and staying connected with us on Twitter and all over. I'm going to paste a lot of links in here. There's a lot of ways. And like Dan mentioned earlier, the feedback community. So feedback.autodesk.com. It's a community of about 350,000 customers and Autodesk employees across almost every single Autodesk product doing all kinds of things. So a lot of different ways to connect with us. Next, please. Thank you for attending our feedback community, our community conversation today. We hope you'll join us again. There's a link to what's on the calendar. There's all different types of events we're scheduling out. We have 2 actually going on at AU, live and in person. So we have the Dynamo office hours and the Revit hints and hacks. Both of those will be live. So thank you. Thank you again, Dan, Mike, everybody who attended. The recording will be posted to the event page later today. So have a great day and continue to stay connected. I can't even talk today. Take 3 days off and this is what happens. Dean, yes, definitely hope to see everybody at AAU 2022 in New Orleans. We'll see you there. All right. Cheers, everybody.